welcome to the Pages to Pixels podcast, where we talk about new movies or TV shows every week. My name is Kevin,
And I'm Rohan.
and this week we're talking about Squid Game 2, Squid Game Season 2. The logline for Squid Game 2, or just the series, hundreds of cash-strapped players accept a strange invitation to compete in a children's game. Inside, a tempting prize awaits, with deadly high stakes. A survival game that has a whopping 45.6 billion won prize at stake. Before we dive in, I just want to preface that we're going to do non-spoiler talk for a bit, and then we'll get into a spoiler discussion. Or you might be watching the video that is the non-spoiler review in its entirety. And if you want to, we encourage you to watch the season and come back and watch our full take on the season as a whole. So, for starters, what did you make of Squid Game Season 1?
I liked it a lot. I remember when it came out, I think it ended up being Netflix's most viewed series of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was kind of crazy that, I don't know, they just captured lightning in a bottle somehow. More than any of their Marvel adaptations, more than Stranger Things. I thought there's no way that they could beat Stranger Things. I don't think anybody expected. People expected this show to be big, I guess, but I don't think anyone expected this level of just international love for Squid Game season one, and I really liked it. And I think I think the reason is because it captured what a lot of people were feeling at the time in terms of just financially. I mean, we're at the income inequality is its biggest, and I know this is more about the show and not politics, but I think you can't talk about Squid Game without talking about the current state of not just America, but also the world, and I'm sure South Korea especially. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but income inequality worldwide is at an all-time high. Uh, it hit home with people, and it exploded. And I watched it. I thought it was great.
You know, way back when I was a kid, one of my favorite artists, Lord, released a song called Royals, right? And that song is about like how rich kids party and they think they're so cool, and poor kids are never going to be able to be like them. And then Royals started getting blasted in like clubs, you know, all across the world. And I feel like Squid Game is like the Royals of Netflix for that reason. Because it's kind of like, if you think about it, this is a show that embodies exactly what you're talking about when it comes
Yep.
to income inequality and just the pure subject of class dynamics. And yet, I think what people think of with the show is they think of the little girl that says red light, green light, and they think of the pink masks. They don't think about the
Yeah.
external things. For some people, I don't think, even with the money element, Squid Game even like that's what it is. I think it's because it popped up at the top of their algorithm. It's called Squid Game, and it's very bright and colorful and has a lot of kooky things going on with it. But again, to its credit, I think the show is great. I loved season one. I loved Gi-hun, the main character. I think following him throughout the show, like he was a really great choice. And I think
Oh,
that yeah, I loved the games as well. Like I think that they all like thematically playing around with like childhood playground games you used to play as a kid are now games that you are staking your whole life on. It makes like I think that it kind of adds to like why would people continue because they think that it's going to be easy and it's not.
I mean, I love the casting. I am probably gonna butcher his name. Lee Seung Jae
Hmm.
uh, plays plays Hyun. Again, I don't know if I'm saying either of those names correctly. I mean, he was great. I almost watched The Acolyte just because of him. I'm gonna echo what you said. I think he's great. I think he's just understanding so well. Just super super relatable. I think, and he does a good job of getting you to put yourself in his shoes. Um, and I think that's part of why the show exploded because I think Yes, I know it's bright, it's colorful, the games are entertaining. I don't think people will watch what the first season was 9 episodes. I don't think people are gonna
Hmm.
watch 9 hour-long episodes without having something more, without having some kind of attachment to the
Right.
characters. We were just talking about the Acolyte. Go on YouTube, you watch the fight scene in the Acolyte. They're great, but a lot of people think the show is terrible, even while acknowledging the fight scenes are great because the other stuff didn't work.
Right. And I think that it just speaks to the show's success that it was able to get a second season. I didn't really expect it to. I thought it kind of had a limited series vibe to it, where it's like, okay, he beat the game, he's done, you know, it's over. But I'm really glad that they actually expanded this. Um, I almost want to say universe because they
Yeah,
have, or more so the world, not really the universe, but they've got this mysterious setup with the games, and by the end of season one, you don't really know
yeah.
really how it was created. You don't really know why. Like you know why and who created it, but you don't know how is it still going. How could this still be something that people do, and why does the government not know about it? Do they know about it? Um,
I was with you. When season one ended, I was like, I don't think we need a second season. I was actually a little worried, but then I watched season two. I love season two. I'm actually going to compare it to Stranger Things, probably the second biggest Netflix show of all time, at least scripted. And that's a show that I think should have ended after season one. Now, I like Stranger Things season two. I like Stranger Things season three, and I think there's been a four season or like season four part one or whatever. But I think season one is definitely the peak of Stranger Things, and it's not even close. I think every season has kind of gone slightly down. Still good, still an overall good show because season one was such a high that there's a lot of room to go down before you get into the bad territory. But it's definitely that's the trajectory, at least for me, where it's going.
I I agree. I mean, I really like Squid Game season two as well. I tried to go in with pretty low expectations because I know season two's like they your show kind of lives or dies if your season two is good, even good or bad, even if your season one was good. And I think that season two exceeded my expectations, like and season one's. Like I think the thing that worked for me this time around was the focus on character. I think Gihun takes a little bit of a back seat, and I think it's smart. Like he's still got his development, but they really round out the side characters in the games this time a lot more, in my opinion. I think that they're also a lot more interesting, maybe arguably a little bit cartoony. Like I'll go ahead and say Thanos is very much like a
Yes,
cartoon
that's exactly who I
villain.
thought of.
Um, but at the same time, like I think they knew where to focus this time around, and I think that
Mm-hmm.
with character they really did a good job of consolidating storylines, making interesting plot lines, and doing new things with these characters that it didn't really feel like they were doing in season one's side plots.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is one of the things that makes this season stand out. It's the supporting characters. Not to say they weren't good in season one. Two, meanwhile, just has like great character after great character after great character. And then we have some characters who are annoying, but for me, all of the annoying characters are meant to be annoying. Like
Hmm.
Thanos, which Thanos is a rapper. The actor is actually a rapper in real life. And there's a small he does a couple raps, but there's one I want to say during the first game that he does. I'm not going to give it away. Uh, but watch the episode, watch that scene, and then pause it, go on YouTube or like Instagram or anything, and just search up Thanos rap in other languages. Oh my god, it's so funny. The English one is crazy. The Hindi one is, I think, one of the funniest and weirdest things I've ever seen. They also changed some of the meaning in it. Like, yeah, it's amazing.
I haven't heard these, and so after I get home today, I'm definitely going to look at look at that video because I did not know. I mean, I knew there's dubs. I mean, I don't know when we were gonna make it, but I was going to make the I've done this podcast before, like at the joke. Um, but like I watch it subbed, so like I'm pretty much used to seeing it in its
Yeah,
native language. I'm surprised people even watch the dub, but I also know Americans' attention spans are not the greatest, so I guess it makes
yeah. I
sense.
also just know some people aren't able to read the subtitles as quickly.
Hmm.
So the only option is to either watch the dub or to slow it down to like 0.75 or half speed. Again, I would say
Um,
if you can watch the sub, watch the sub. But if the only way you're gonna watch it is through the dub, I'd rather they watch it dubbed than not watch it at all.
there's one big thing before we get into spoilers that I do feel like this season does have, which is an investigation subplot. And
Mm-hmm.
it particularly takes up the first episode. I did feel that the first episode was okay to be like light spoilery. So I will say like I think the pilot was really good drop into drop back into it. I know that there's some things that happen in it that are kind of confusing to me. In general, what did you make of the investigation, like at the start, and as opposed to like how you feel it came through in the rest of the episodes in the season?
I found it interesting in the beginning when Jihoon was the one kind of like spearheading it. Um, and then once he goes back into the games, and then there's the other characters that are doing the investigation themselves, I kind of lost interest.
That's how I feel too. It's probably the biggest weak point of the season. Not to say that there aren't certain elements of it that I like, but I feel like the strength of the first episode is less on the investigation and more on the actor's name is Wee Ha Jun, the character who is the the card man, who plays the game with Gihun in season one, and got him involved in the game in the first place. Um,
Wait, are you sure? Is that not the? I thought that was the cop.
no, I'm saying that my favorite I think my favorite element of the episode is not the investigation and more the guy who plays like
Oh,
the card game.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, that was super interesting, and just his level of commitment to it.
Hmm.
All right, shall we talk spoilers?
Yep. So if you want to catch our non-spoiler talk, just check the rest of our channel and or click the link below. Um, yeah, for those who are just watching. Uh, diving into spoilers. Let's just stay at the beginning. You know, how did the pilot work for you in terms of either in comparison to season one or just in general the plot that they chose to start us off with?
So I don't think episode one of season two was as good as episode one of season one. Um, just because it's the job of the pilot for the first season is they need to hook you. Um, I thought they did a great job of that in season one. Season two, they don't have to do that. They kind of, and this is very common in most shows. There, the next season it kind of just drops you back into the world, kind of holds your hand a bit, and then um, it starts out a little bit slower, which is what I expected. Uh, and it's what I expected from the premiere, and that's kind of what I got. But it was still interesting. I really like. I don't remember exactly which episode it is, but the part when they go to the club trying to investigate, and he's trying to figure out how to get back into the game so he can destroy it. Oh, also, I love that they got rid of the pink hair. I think that would have been super distracting if they kept that for the whole season.
Oh yeah, I was surprised. So that was one thing I was thinking of talking about in the non in the spoiler section because what is well okay, I understand I understand not wanting to look at the red hair, but like what was the point of it if it
Yeah, I don't
if he
know.
just got rid of it? Very
Um,
strange decision.
it felt like they had an idea for what season two would be, but they may not have gone greenlit for season two 100%, and maybe Netflix was like, let's see what the numbers in season one are like, and then before we make
Mhm.
that decision, and then I think that was probably the result of that.
Google lied to me. I asked who was the card player on the search bar, and they showed we Haju. That's why you said I was not. That is the police
Yeah,
officer.
yeah,
You're right. I was confused because Google was saying that that was who it was. So, um,
it's
let
okay.
me. I don't know. Yeah. So, I mean, let's talk about the card playing guy. Like I forget what it's Don. Is it Donchi? I forget what it's called. Um,
I don't know the game. I'm not familiar with it in terms. Most of these games. I think the only game I knew was Red Lake and White. Uh,
I knew about like glass stepping stones, but it's not obviously played over a giant ceiling, like a
yeah.
giant dropping floor. Um,
Hmm.
it was just more like you have to memorize the pattern type game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that
Oh,
his performance in season one, yeah,
no, go ahead.
okay, I thought that his performance in the pilot was incredible. Like you said, his commitment was great, but also I just think that he was like the strongest element of it. And I liked how mysterious he was. I feel like I still
Yeah.
didn't get enough answers, but like it made the investigation interesting because it was like we need to start from where we started off, which was
Yep.
finding this guy. And I thought that's how they were going to get into the game. They were going to get the card from him to get in, but
Yeah.
it turned out to be a different way.
Well, I mean, he played the Russian roulette game,
Hmm.
and then yeah, he ended up blowing his own brains out. And that's what I mean. I'm like, wow, he is so all in terms of his commitment that he doesn't, for the sake of the game, he will blow out his brains.
And I think like that might be something that they're going to touch on soon with the rest of the employees because one element that we didn't talk about in our non-spoiler section is the guard subplot in this season. And like what their involvement is. I feel like we really I really like this character of this female sniper guard, triangle guard who has like a lot of she has a tie to a character in the games in this and I think number like 140 or 2 I think it's like 246. That's
I don't
it.
remember which one.
I,
Yeah, I,
I
th- I
sort
think
of
you, I think
remember
it might
that.
be 246. Yeah.
And 246 has a sick daughter who wears a strawberry hat and faints all the time,
Yep.
unfortunately. And I really liked I really enjoyed the subtle, like most of I like how most of her plot right now is like stuff happening to her because I feel like it's leading to a bigger change by come season 3 before we go that far. I just want to ask what were your thoughts on her subplot because I thought it was a better subplot than the police story that we got with the guard in season 1.
I'm gonna agree that it was a better subplot than the police story. I think after like the first episode of the investigation, or after Ji-hoon goes into the games, I think the
Mm-hmm.
investigation stops being interesting. I think there's like a whole scene where they're like, "Oh my god, drones are so cool!" Like, okay. uh, um, but I'm gonna be honest, that subplot I thought it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't love it. I personally was not that invested in it. But it wasn't also like, when they cut back to them, the investigators in the boat, it was always like, ugh, it wasn't like that. I'm still intrigued by it, and I don't know, I just wasn't super invested in the guard itself or the relationship.
Oh.
But I felt that it was an interesting concept.
Well, I like that we're following a very immoral character. Like, I mean, she's straight up killing people. Like, how
Yeah,
are we gonna root for this person's redemption? Um, like, is she even redeemable? Like, is she even redeemable? And what is she going to do to help 246 escape? Or, she can't help him win anymore because come the final episode, he does get shot.
Yeah.
but it seems to be implied that it is her that's shooting him. Um, I think that a lot of the setup that they have regarding the organ donors and stuff is what I think is going to be what I think interests me the most because I think that they've just really done a lot of good setup, and now in season three, I want to see them deliver. I don't want it to be something that doesn't get as much focus, but fair point. I can understand it not being as interesting as the games themselves and the other side characters. Which let's talk more about other side characters in the show.
Yeah, I think this was one of my biggest this is one of the biggest things I loved about season two. I mean, you created the villains, there's the woman putting curses on everyone, there's Thanos just being annoying and then but also like actively killing uh people. Maybe not
Hmm.
like stabbing them. I mean, no, eventually he gets that, but even stuff like, "Hey, I'm gonna push you out of this room" and all that. Um,
Hmm.
that was he was I hated him, but he's a that's the point. You're supposed to hate this guy. Uh, but I think the one that really stood out to me was um, the three that really stood out to me were one is there's a trans woman. There is and
Uli,
then
yeah,
yes, and then there's the mother and son duo.
yeah.
They
I
really
really like those characters.
yeah, and just the mother not really understanding at first, and then but then kind of coming coming around and understanding. Is it Uni or
Hmm.
yeah? Just understanding her, and then eventually even being like, hey, when we get out, I want you to come over to my home for dinner. It was a very soft. It was very touching. That's something that I felt like season one did not have. Season one was it was kind of all thrill. I think season two had uh, it gave me the other emotions also.
Was really I was a little worried and skeptical about that character because I knew that in the news it had gotten leaked like that it was like a cis actor who's playing portraying her. But that said, I do think that the character is my favorite
Yeah.
of the side characters, especially for like I think this is another case of like a flawed character. She ends up voting to keep the games going, not once,
Uh huh.
but twice. And that action in the Mingle game ends up killing one of her closest friends in it. And I think
Hmm.
just seeing that regret, the actor who is in that role, like really did a great job, I think. Um, and then badass sniping the Squid Game guards, like that was
Oh yeah.
crazy. That was a
Yeah. I
really fun
saw.
reveal.
Uh huh. Yeah. And I mean, I think we can talk about that character being played by a cis actor. Um, obviously, it's not ideal. Obviously, we want trans performers. I personally, I something like that is not going to make me dismiss the entire show or even the entire character. Um,
Hmm.
I think we can do better, but I don't think it's like completely. Yeah, I'm not going to dismiss it either.
And it's not like South Korea's culturally at a point where that is very common to find.
Yeah.
I mean, we still have different countries that cast women in roles based on how much they weigh. Like that still happens.
Hmm.
So I don't feel like other countries are at that point in film, but where they're able to succeed, I think in this sense they succeeded in the
Yeah.
storyline for this character. Um,
Hmm.
I think I do want to shout out the Gihun's like posse, mainly the his
Yeah.
friend, the other military guy. I think he's really like adorable. Like he's got like golden
Oh,
retriever energy.
yeah. I think he was with like Thanos in the beginning. He was right where he was like Thanos' buddy, and then he found out that the other guy was also a Marine. Or am I confusing him?
No, I think you're confusing Thanos' buddy and him. Like they both have kind of longish hair, but he's
Oh,
the
okay.
they met him in the relay game.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah, so and then they discovered they were Marines. So that's when that character gets revealed.
yeah.
But I thought
Got
he
it.
was pretty cool. And
Yeah.
we can't go this season without talking about the head of the games,
Frontman.
the front man. Yes.
Yeah. Uh, Also participating in the game. When that reveal happened, I was like, oh, like, uh, and I I think he was very interesting. Uh, I think he did a
Hmm.
good job of like concealing his cover also, while subtly manipulating them and destroying the games. Like he was constantly undercutting June, even
Hmm.
when and he did it in a way that June may not was not realizing it. He acted like an ally, but would he would just ask that question, just try to plant seeds of doubt in everyone else's mind. Obviously, in the first one, he's the tie-breaking vote, and then in the next vote, it's I believe he votes to end the game. But he had planted seeds of doubt, so he knew that others would vote to continue the game.
It's a really good reveal, and I see a lot of criticism that says like, oh, Gi-hun is so dumb for not realizing it because both he and the old man, Il Nam, had
Oh,
the 001 as their player, and I think on one hand, yeah, I get it. Like, yeah, like he should be suspicious of someone interfering in the games. And I don't think that it's impossible to say that he doesn't have any suspicions. Like he just doesn't,
yeah,
reveal them. But I think that it also speaks to just consistency with Gi-hun's character. He's not the smartest guy. Like he's really trying, and his plan doesn't work in the end. So it makes
yeah,
sense why he's fooled by him. I don't really think it's a bump for me at all. I think it just speaks to how intelligent also the other characters are, or maybe it just goes in hand with like the themes of class and like now bring in like
yeah,
education into it.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, he's also a character who he tends to trust people.
mhm.
He's gonna keep trusting you until you give him a reason not to. And wearing 001 is just not a reason.
Yeah, like he can't just immediately like because what if he came in and then attacked the guy that was 001, like just
Yeah,
falsely believing it, like it would completely it wouldn't make any sense, and I think the guards would also just kill him. Um,
yeah.
uh,
He and in fairness, that guy did a great again. He did a great job at concealing himself. I know the old man in um, the first season, he just kind of acted eh, like an old man who didn't know what he was doing. But front man in this season, um, he was being very strategic.
mhm.
Uh,
I also just I really love the actor Lee Byung Hoon.
yes,
Uh, I mean he is in so many good films. Uh, People should watch I Saw the Devil. People should not watch G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra, but he is Storm Shadow, and I love Storm Shadow. I'm just kidding. I actually like the movie, but like not like I love I Saw the Devil. So, but yeah, I wanted to ask. I wanted to bring up something that I do think is really important for Squid Game, and it will also segue into the challenge. Is like, how do you feel Squid Game relates to reality television? I know you are not like a big reality game show watcher. I'm probably more suited to answer this, but I just wanted your thoughts. Like, do you think that they drew a lot of inspiration for this series from that, or do you think, or like, and how so?
um, I mean, how could you not? I'm sure that they did. It just this movie. I mean, the show is kind of reality competition on steroids. When there's a big cash prize at the end, when a player gets eliminated, they don't just get eliminated from the game; they straight up die.
Hmm.
Uh, it's um, and then there is the series of there's this game and that game. That's like the reality shows they have. Night one, there's this challenge. Some people are going to get eliminated. And there's this challenge. More people are going to get eliminated. And even the voting elements. sure, you're not voting for one person to leave the game, but you are voting on whether or not the games are going to continue at
Mhm.
all. So it's it's all there. Again, it's just turned up to the extreme.
I really liked the voting element in this season. I think that was missing in the last season. Like you could see alliances and strategies, but we didn't get like voting. And I think voting is such a key
Yeah.
aspect of like the most successful reality shows. And I think in this one, it's a really I don't want to say it's unique. I think there are games kind of like this, but I can't put my finger on like which ones. But I gotta say like their their interior like being like this like play school like or playground like and like school element like it makes for such a unique setting. It reminds you of like okay, the survivor locale is a beach, the big brother setting is a
Hmm.
big summer house. Like it really blends in with the world. And I think the games like especially in this season, even though there are less games, I really enjoyed the ones that they showed. Because red light green light is a classic.
Yep.
Rest in peace to the first girl who had a bee land on her and
I
got shot
know.
for it.
I think that's the one
And
Thanos was into, right?
yeah, and he was like,
That's
"Ooh."
yeah, that's the one he does the rap for.
I think also the show reminds me of Sasuke, or Ninja Warrior, which that show's more athletic, but in that season it's like a
Yeah.
hundred competitors or so, and when you fail an obstacle, if you fall in the water, you're dead, you're out. Like that's it. And um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I
I
think it just raises the stakes.
yeah. I also think the games were super interesting this season around. I think my favorite one was the relay one where they're all like arm in arm, which that episode might have been my favorite episode because the first half just starts out, it's so wholesome, it's so sweet, and then the show reminds you, oh wait, people die in this. But
Hmm.
I think that game was just so fun to watch while everyone was having fun. And yeah, again, they give you that little bit of tension when Frontman is kind of intentionally messing up at the game, and you're like, oh no, is he gonna screw it up? Is he gonna screw them all over?
Hmm. And
Uh,
how would he get away with
but
like
he,
living that? Oh God.
I don't know. Um, but uh, but yeah, and I think that there's so many moments in this show end up becoming memes, and I think that was one of my favorite ones where it's me and my friends going to the next bar at 2 a.m.
Speaking of the games, didn't you actually play the New York challenge?
Oh yes, I did. So what Kevin is referring to, there's kind of like an immersive game experience where you do um, where you it's Squid Game themed. But there's just a giant screen and you have to react to the screen. Um, it's almost like virtual reality minus the headset. Uh,
Hmm.
but yeah, I think we did. This was based off of the first season, so Red Light Green Light was the first one. That thing was hard because the motion sensor is super sensitive on that one. So literally a movement like slightly move your shoulder, and so you're out. Uh,
Damn, that's hard. Did
yeah,
you
it was a
live
lot of fun
any?
though. No, wait. So you kind of would just you would just keep going until you won.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Um, I guess before we move on, is there anything you wanted to talk about before we get to standout elements?
No, I think we can move on.
Um, oh, I guess there is one thing. So, I mean, the season ending is on a cliffhanger. And I will
Yep.
say that another negative criticism is about that. I personally liked that we ended off on this cliffhanger because I kind of feel like I just want to see the games. I'm ready to see things get taken down. I knew this wasn't going to be the end, but
Yeah.
now that season three is announced for the summer, I feel like it also makes even more sense that it ended on a cliffhanger because they're going to air the rest of the season this year, or
Hmm.
the rest, maybe the rest of the series. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
I mean, oh, wait, TV shows have cliffhangers all the time.
Hmm.
It's not a new thing. So that's point one. And point two is I think if you are upset at the show ending on at one season ending on a cliffhanger, then I think the show did its job well. I think that's actually a compliment to the show because you were so invested that when it ended without giving you closure, it pissed you off because you wanted more. Uh, so
Hmm.
yeah, I think um, yeah. Again, is it frustrating? Because yes, I do want to see. I want to just next episode. But it's not something that's bad per se.
Right. I don't think it was that bad of a thing.
Yeah,
I'm excited for season three though. All right. So, what would be your standout element of this season?
I kind of touched upon it earlier, but I think the way this show uses themes. Of course, season one had that, but I think season two really delved deeper into it, particularly with the voting, um, because um, because of how just divided. And I know season one had like a vote or two, but it was very much like the votes happened, you would see the aftermath, whatever. Season two, voting and almost campaigning and pitching why you should vote one way and why you should vote the other way was an integral part of it. What you often saw was, especially with frontman being directly in here and being an active participant as opposed to the old man in season one who was more passive. He was just kind of there. You saw that those in power were using tactics of division to make the people in the game turn on each other. Which I mean, we just had a huge election in November, and that is the exact same tactic that is used. It's the exact same tactic that's been used for forever now. I mean, you look at the partition of India when India became India and Pakistan, and even when it was under the British rule. It's the British would constantly try to create division to get the people within India fighting each other, so that way it's easier to roll over them because they know that united, it's a lot tougher, and they probably won't succeed in holding their power. Same thing happened. I mean, there's a video from I want to say like 2002 of Bernie Sanders that went viral recently after the election, just outlining this exactly, where um, many politicians tend to be conservatives will try to divide people amongst themselves, and they'll run away, run laughing all the way to the bank. It's something we just saw in the most recent election as well, and I think the show really addressed that in a way that season one didn't, and I think that's what really stood out to me. They were able to get that commentary in such a in such an effective way with the vote on
Hmm.
whether or not we continue the next game. What
Yeah,
about you? What's your standout element? Oh, sorry, actually, if you want to comment, sorry.
here just one second. Okay. So first of all, really well said. I agree. I think that the themes in this show really work well, and I think that for all of the maybe fair bit of criticism that they get from it's on Netflix, it's like a cash cow for them now. Listen, we can't create any change without media. We can't create this
Yeah,
kind of awareness without media. And unfortunately, in order to create media, you need money. Like it's just the
yeah,
the creator of this show was struggling for work, struggling to find funding, and like this has completely changed his life and probably many of the other people who have worked on it. So,
hmm,
yeah, it's there are rich people getting rich off of this, but there are also people that were not rich that are getting, more acclaim for their work as an artist for being on this film. And I think that is something that I took away from what you said as well, just because I think the themes of this show are really well written and well presented. My standout element for me is I really like the Mingle game episode. That is probably my favorite um, game in the series so far. I like the relay. I think it is fun and intense, but Mingle
Yeah,
has it's so fun. I mean, you've got the song like the
yeah,
but also you got like the scramble with the doors, and there's a lot of conflict that gets out of it. Um, between what I mentioned earlier with Uni accidentally getting her friend killed because she voted that way, and the Bitcoin guy. We didn't really mention
oh,
him, but him shoving her out of the way. But like
yeah,
it's so unfortunate, but it is like an understandable thing that he did. Like she wasn't going to make it, and he gets in there,
yeah,
and he helped save seven of their lives. There's such a like great dynamic that again
mhm,
speaks to what you were talking about with the themes. That's like if I didn't do this, we wouldn't have that. And I think that the other thing that stands out in this game, there are two things. One is Thanos saying goodbye to his friend because he's on drugs, and then coming back and being like, "Where is he? Like you killed him." And then the second was 001 snapping the neck of that guy in the
oh yeah,
room. That was shocking, like to me. Like
that
I
was
was like,
insane.
I thought like, oh, this is how he's gonna hide that he's away, but no, he like saves. He ends up saving that Gihun's friend, only to pull the trigger
Yeah,
on him later. It was
hmm
just like brilliant to me. I thought that
yeah,
entire sequence was great.
yeah. I did not expect. I expected him to like open the door and shove the guy back out.
Hmm
But then, yeah, no, he went for the neck.
it was very intense. Great scene. So yeah, with that said, I feel like we don't really need to explain much, but let's go into our ratings.
Yeah. So as a reminder, or if you're new, we do our ratings on a scale on the script coverage scale. There's pass when we don't think it's all that good, consider when we think it's decent, and finally recommend when we think it's great. As a reminder, this is not a recommendation, it's just a score. With that said, what's your score for Squid Game Season 2?
I'm gonna give Squid Game 2 a recommend. Not maybe not the strong recommend, but a solid recommend. I thoroughly enjoy this series. As a big fan of reality TV, I think it really speaks to me because I just love the games, and I think that the production value on it is also just so grand. Like I think that you
Oh,
couldn't
yeah.
ask for more. I think that there are a lot of people who could have fumbled this concept and it could be like a hidden gem somewhere, but it's become a cult classic for a reason. I think that well, it's not a cult classic. I think it's become culty now for a reason. I think it just speaks to its quality. I really love it.
Yeah, this is an easy recommend for me. I'll go with a strong recommend. I think, I mean, I have to think about 2024 and my favorite seasons of TV, but this is probably in my top five. Yeah, I
It's pretty
love
good.
season two.
I think the thing that holds it back for me is the investigation, but I
Yeah.
it's not that bad. I mean, we didn't really talk about it, but I think it is very obvious that the fisherman is the mole, and then
hmm
when that happens, I feel nothing because I knew it was him the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, what would you what would you recommend to someone who either likes Squid Game 2 or should watch something similar?
Um, it's so I was having trouble coming up with this because of uh just because of how unique this show is. So, I one thing that I was thinking about was Parasite, but I feel like Parasite, everyone's seen it. So I'm gonna go with, and it's a very shallow connection. It's just they're both Korean shows and they're both produced by Netflix. That's the only reason I'm going with this show. But I'm gonna go with Chicken Nugget. This is a show
I've heard
that,
about this show.
yeah, if Squid Game is too heavy for you and you just want to like watch something funny, and chill, yeah, watch Chicken Nugget, where it's a show about a man who accidentally turns his daughter into a chicken nugget, and like literally a chicken nugget, and he has to figure out how to turn her back into a girl. Yeah,
How
it's
does how does he not like just eat it? Like Is it a delicious chicken nugget? Is it unseasoned?
Well, that's the yeah. There was an episode where somebody finds her on the ground and puts her and thinks that somebody just dropped the other chicken nugget, dropped a chicken nugget. So he puts her in the box with the other chicken nuggets, and they have to go to the restaurant that they got the other chicken nuggets from, find the head chef, and figure out which one is different than the other, because then they'll know that one's her and the other ones are just regular chicken nuggets.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah. Actually, I think the woman who ends up telling them like which one is her is from Squid Game season one. So
Oh,
there's some familiar faces actually.
I my recommendation is going to be a movie from 1987 called The Running Man. Um, it stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he is a basically this guy who is I think he's like investigating the games of uh, the Running Man show, which is basically like a bunch of people who were in prison are convicted of a crime are trying to fight their way out of a crime by dueling like three hunters who have like all this gear, and you kind of have to compete in like a game against them in order to beat them and kill them. And when Arnold's character gets in there, that's when like this is the first time where it seems genuinely like the Running Man won't be able to win, and so the game host, who was actually a real host, Richard Dawson, he and the production company they try so hard to rig it against Arnold, throughout it. They emotionally manipulate him. They physically tamper with the games. It's very similar to Squid Game, in that it centers around this like the criminal justice system and also just how corrupt these like games really can be from a rich side of things. And also, Edgar Wright is direct working on a remake, so I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, I love Edgar Wright. I haven't seen the original, but um, I probably should because I've heard a lot about it.
It's really solid. Definitely recommend it. And also, I mean, while I'm here, watch Survivor. I love Survivor.
Yeah, what else have you been watching?
So I watched A Different Man. This is another Oscar nominated movie. Well, I also watched Red Rooms. We both watched it together, but I feel like
Hmm.
more talking about A Different Man because um like that's something you didn't get to see. But A Different Man is about a actor who grew up with like this deformity, but then he gets the deformity removed, uh, like from his face, and then after he's like become a successful like real estate agent, and retired from doing that work, he learns that there's a play that is about him in his life before he existed, like when he had the deformed face,
He
and
has the euphoria moment. Wait, is this play about us?
yes, he did. He did. I thought it was really well made. Sebastian Stan is the lead, and I think he gives a good performance. My biggest gripe to the film would probably be they don't give the main character enough dialogue beyond, what is happening here? Like he kind of does like that, like a lot. But
Yeah.
it was a really cool film. It also has Renee Reinsve from The Worst Person in the World and Adam Pearson, who I don't know if you've seen Under the Skin, but he's the man that has an actual deformity, like uh, a, with his face. And I thought it was
Hmm.
really cool to see that representation on film.
Okay,
What
awesome.
about you?
I've been watching lately. I've been watching the Australian Open. I know this is not like film or TV, but it's entertainment. It's um, it's the first of the Grand Slam tournaments of the year. Although funny story, I missed the final match live, and that's because it takes place in Australia, so their prime time for me is 12:30 a.m. Or for us here is 12:30 a.m. Usually these matches go on for like 4 to 5 hours, especially when it comes to the final rounds, because you have like two really big players against each other. Um, and I went to bed. I slept on the couch that night so I could just wake up in the middle of the night and just catch it. Um, I set an alarm for 3. Figured I'll catch the end of it. It turned out it was a blowout victory. So I ended up missing the whole thing. By the time I woke up, there was hockey playing on the screen. Um, so I went back to bed and then I watched a rerun of it in the morning.
And was who you were rooting for? Did they end up winning?
Yep.
Nice. Well, Gihun won before, so I guess anything is possible. I'm not sure. Wait, who were you rooting for again? I'm sorry.
In the final match, I was rooting for Yannick Sinner.
Hmm. Well, that's it for this week's episode of the Pages of Pixels podcast. I'm Kevin,
I'm Rohan.
and stay tuned next week for another video. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.